Hey everyone, it's Shay Seeking here with another video. Um, I like to, for some reason, I like when one of the old heads come up in my feed that I've never heard before, and I wonder why. If this person was supposed to be around back in like the 70s and 80s, why didn't I never hear this person speak? Because whatever this person is speaking about is exactly how I feel like today, and that we need to hear this today. And it's funny how a lot of these people's uh, information is starting to pop up in the feed, now. And I think it's when we really need it. Somebody must have went and grabbed it off VHS or something and popped it up here. So, just that's another way how we're all gonna help with this whole thing at the end of the day, because this guy right here, now I know I skimmed through a little bit about him, and I noticed he was wearing like the African, scarf and stuff like that, with the like kente cloth looking stuff and things like that. But like, I never dismiss somebody's whole story off of their past. If anything, I like to go and visit the person about what they were first talking about when they came on the scene, and I like to look through the middle, and then I like to see what they were talking about. Most of the people previous, like right when they passed away or were assassinated or whatever. So because usually the tune has changed. I like to think that some of these people, I know we say, oh, Freemasons, all this other stuff, Boule and all this other stuff, but I really like to think that some of these people that really stood out, they might have been taken advantage of, rather, or they might have been knowing that they were a part of these particular things, but they felt some kind of way, or they had some type of awakening like we're all having right now, toward the end of their life. And I have to respect them for that, because I hadn't always been reading, being able to even look at the Bible and see it the way, like, dude, if I think about 10 years ago when I first picked up the Bible and really wanted to get into it, I just thought it was a whole bunch of words that was mumble jumble on the page. I got so irritated, I just didn't want to look anymore. And then I started, praying about it. And then that didn't work. I wanted something real. Like, I didn't want to just be like everybody else. Or, not saying that people don't have their own thoughts of what they think is real, but I really think that we've been misled in religion. And most of the stuff that we learn in religion really don't even have that much to do with a lot of the stuff that is in the actual book. And I really think that you have to be in a certain state of mind to even look at that book and be able to go tap into it deeper than what people have been able to. So I'm not saying I know better because you've been in church, but just because you've been in church for 30 years doesn't mean that you know better than me. Because like I always say, if I had a creator, he wouldn't need that book, and he wouldn't need a church. He wouldn't need any of that. He would have gave me the tools, which is me, myself, and I. And I would be able to utilize those things in order to use some of the things, these other things that have been put on earth as tools in order to decipher or to see, how I'm supposed to think about this book. And excuse me, for those that think you just read the Bible and you just know the stories, mm-mm, that's not how you read it. Now, I'm not saying that the book is spiritual. I'm not saying that you can't put it on the floor. All those superstitious things that we were taught about it, in the past. I'm just saying that it's worth the read if you are at a certain level of understanding and overstanding. You will be able to see something different in that book than any Christian that can tell you, oh, I've been in church this long, you just now start reading the Bible. If you have been if you tap into that connection that the source is handing out to you, instead of doing it the cliche way that people in religion today think that they're doing it. And if you get in touch, if you're connected to that, the great spirit, or they call it the Holy Spirit, and you're being led, and and it's not a thing of wondering, or you just get the Holy Ghost on Sunday at church from around 10 to 2 p.m. No, I'm talking about the real deal, that you can feel that presence with you all day, every day, and it's actually having you do something to see something. And I use that along with etymology and the law dictionary and all these other things, because you have to be able to know the way that these people work in order to even tap into a lot of understanding that's going on, with the Bible and with any history and anything else. So, um, that's way off subject, but y'all know I like to talk a lot. I have a lot I have to get off my chest and I want to say, and that's why I started the channel. So, um, and I want to hear from other people too. And I watch a lot of other people, and I know that the answer is within us at this moment in time. So, and we are going to be being utilized as vessels of truth and prophesy and all these other things, like the book says. So, that's something that I can really see because I see it going on. And I'm going to call it what it is. I'm not going to, because people think it's too holy for us to understand or be a part of. No, from what I'm reading, we're going to be a part of these end times or whatever. And we are going to be used. So everybody need to get that through their head. If you think it's only about what Jesus is supposedly coming to do for you out of the blue, if you're not doing something for yourself. And I think that we better get a better understanding, because a lot of that stuff in that book I'll just stop there. So, yeah. So I was happy to see this guy and see what he was saying. So I can disregard all that, what he was saying, because what he's saying is truth. And he has a lot of information. And we're just going to listen like to the first 8 minutes. And he talks about a lot of valid points. And I agree with every single thing that he is saying in the first couple of minutes of this video. So.
The idea that to see involves more than just opening the eyes and exposing the retina to the environment. It means then, in a sense, the mind sees through the eyes and directs the eyes as what to see. We, in hypnosis, we deal with something that we call sometimes negative hallucinations. That is, getting people, let's look at the other type of hallucination first, say the positive hallucination. The positive hallucination, of course, is getting people to see what is actually not there, to see things that are actually not present in reality. And of course, some of you probably have seen those kinds of hypnotic tricks, where you tell the hypnotic patient, the client, that he has a rabbit in his lap, and of course there's nothing there, and he then proceeds to pet it and play with it, even though it's not there. This is what we call a positive hallucination. You can also produce a negative hallucination. You can tell the hypnotized subject that an object which is right before his face is not there. And he will see everything except that particular object that you've directed him not to see. You see this sometimes in certain forms of schizophrenia, for instance. Some types of schizophrenics can look and see everything on this podium here, except perhaps this tape, even though it's right there before their eyes. Sometimes it's fascinating when you look at people who are so-called mentally disturbed, particularly the schizophrenic, because you can see the enormous powers of the human mind. And in this instance, then, you have a mind that for some reason or other is instructing that patient not to see a particular object right before his face. And yet he's seeing all of the other objects around it very, very clearly. So what we're trying to talk about here then is that if your mind and your brain is inefficiently programmed, then that inefficient program will misdirect your eyes, will misdirect your senses, will create for you then a reality that is, in a sense, unreal. It will mean then, since you are missing reality and missing parts of that reality, you cannot efficiently cope with it. To a good extent then, when we look at the history of the African man in relationship to the European, we see a man whose reality has been created for him, whose mind...
And since y'all know where y'all at, whenever he say African, I just disregard that because maybe he didn't know any better, or maybe in order for him to give this much information, he had to downplay it a little bit by saying African. And I'm doubt that anybody with this much information, well, that's not really his field, I guess, but would not know the truth. Like, I think a lot of these people know the truth, but they're just not allowed to talk about it. And they could maybe lose their lives or their well being or their job or whatever. And in this rat race that we call life, this so called life, um, that matters to people. It matters a lot, So, um, maybe, I mean, and since he deals with the mind, maybe, excuse me, he already knows that even by dropping this knowledge, although he's throwing us off by saying African a lot, and he had that whole African thing going on, doesn't mean that somebody like me or you or anybody else that's calling themselves going through this awakening right now and seeing the truth about uh, the so-called African Americans actually being, or most of us, actually descending from the original people that were here, if you want to call them American Indians, indigenous, origine, or whatever you might want to call them. We're just saying prior to 1492, we found records and we found information and we've looked at the slave trade, um, actual papers, and we see that some of us were already here. So,
and brain has been created in such a way that even the most obvious things in reality are overlooked and not seen. And this is often done through what we call this so-called education. Mm-hmm. Remember, I alluded to the idea of trained eyes, experienced eyes, which means that an individual's mind has been created so that the eyes can find what that individual is looking for. Mm-hmm. What makes you think then that the European who trains your mind is going to train your mind to see reality in such a way that it will overthrow his dominance over you as a people?
Ain't gonna happen.
How do you expect to see reality from a people who write your history in such a way that you don't even see yourself there? So when you look at history, you're not there. You look at American history, you're not there. You look at world history, you're not there. You look at anthropology, you're not there. And if you are there, you're there as a primitive, Stone Age kind of people, never having written anything or contributed anything. You look at economics, and you're not there except perhaps as a commodity in and of itself. You look at mathematics, and you're not there. You look at every discipline, and you do not see yourself. What kind of reality then can we be looking at as a people when our minds have been trained in such a way that we have literally negative hallucinations as well as positive hallucinations? It's amazing then that when we look at these disciplines where we don't see ourselves, so many of us call this kind of education in these disciplines a good education.
Let's just stop right there. Let's just stop right there. I mean, anybody that disagree with anything on this in this speech so far, I don't know what planet you're living on. But I can very well see this before I heard anything that this man had to say, and I just found one of his speeches last night. So we all have to be thinking these same things. But I just think that the largest thing is fear. It's fear of letting go. Like we've never been we fought to be accepted and go to school, white folks, so long ago, or so-called white people or whatever. We fought to be integrated. We fought to do all these things, and we look at ourselves today and we see that we're still not. They're still showing you, you know, systematically showing you, whether it's through the murders, and some of these things are, like I told you, real, and some of these things are not. So, whatever it is, they want to have us in fear. They want to give us the perception that this is going on with only us. And the reason why they want to give other folks, Caucasians, the perception that this only happening to us is because they really are having both of us in such a bad situation that it's almost easier, because you've always been the underdog, to make it seem like it's just happening to you, because then it's acceptable. But if in so-called Caucasian eyes, if it's got something to do with him or animals, he's on top of it. But you, my friend, are not either one of those. So you're just not, your issue is not that important to them. Even though they're seeing you getting killed, there's always a but this, or back the blue, or this and that. So there's always a smack in the face. And they don't, I don't even think that they know that they do this systematically, because I don't even look at them as a threat to me, everyday so-called Caucasians that live next door to me and live around me. They're not the threat. They've just been having the perception that they're over us. We all know that that's not exactly true. And when you know that, you're able to proceed with caution, and you're able to see that a lot of the stuff we've all been manipulated into seeing it these ways. Now, is it right for them to think that way? No. Common sense or something in them that they may not possess doesn't let them see that. But as long as they can make it look like on mainstream media that it's only happening to you, it's going to be okay. I just posted a video on my page on Facebook the other day, of the white police beating up on a poor white guy that was, something was wrong with him. He was intoxicated, or he was hallucinating, or whatever was wrong with him, and they took advantage and they smacked him so hard, and that, oh my goodness, it was horrible. And I don't like anybody mistreating anybody, so that's just the way that I think. So I'm just saying that so-called white people don't have no power, just like you don't. They sell their children away into modern day slavery, by sending their children to school, and by working this rat race as well, paying taxes, signing up for birth certificates, marriage licenses, and all the other things that we are sustained to do. So I'm not saying that the playing field is even. I'm just saying to say that they need us to be the ones that's being, so that America cannot see what's actually going on, with there being really something against the imposters that are in the District of Columbia or DC, that are a foreign entity working in our sovereign entity. I like to make up stuff sometimes, like make up stuff about like the words that I'm using. If it sounds good, I'm gonna put it there, and y'all get what I'm saying. So but but this is true. They're a foreign entity within our land, acting as if they are representing us, and they're really not. They're just ripping it from us and taking the resources from the land like they've always done. And they're using the main people that don't, in the fact that we don't know our true history as already being here, and removing us emotionally from the land and physically from our places that we were. They've been able to fulfill this. So, but I'd like to say that the education system or indoctrination stations that we send our children to on a daily basis are, in my mind, I've made up the decision after hearing this guy speak. I do agree that this is child abuse for the black children, especially because of all the things that he said just previous to this. Not seeing yourself in any of it, but we beat we'll be ready to beat the kid to death if they say they don't want to go to school, or they don't want to participate, or we don't think about how we felt in school and think how they would feel, and how maybe even nowadays it might even be more, because they would think that, oh, all my grandparents and my parents went through all this stuff, we should be able to do whatever now, and it's not the case. So yeah, I'm just saying. So a lot of us send our kids there anyway, and I just hope that people are reiterating things when they get home and letting them know other things, and filling them in on other stuff now that we are able to do so, and we won't go to jail for it like our grandparents did when they wanted them to stop calling themselves Indians, and they made it illegal to do so. And that's a lot of ways how they stopped us from, or disconnected us from, our true selves. So, anyways, we're at 5 minutes and 48. I'd like to watch this whole thing with you guys. So, I have to go and get my child, and I will hopefully be back today or tomorrow with a little bit more, and we'll just go ahead and do little chunks of it. But I really think that he's a great speaker, and he got a lot of good information here. And I agree with a lot of things that he says. So, I guess I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for stopping by and watching. Bye.